Hi, I'm Scott Brozier, and welcome back to another episode of Versatile Gundog. In today's episode, I am going to go through the process of plucking a grouse, and then using a sharp knife, I am going to bone out the carcass. So all we have left is just a boneless piece of meat that's all together, that's still attached to the skin. I'm going to give that a shot today. Stay with me and see how it goes. So I've got a little box here to catch all the feathers. I've left these grouse in the refrigerator for a few days to help hopefully relax the feathers and the skin, so it might make it easier to pluck. Now, grouse are notorious for having very fragile skin, so it's not uncommon to end up ripping the skin. Don't worry about it, just keep going, try to work your way around it. In the end, it'll actually work out. If it does tear terribly, then there's other options. But I've got a couple grouse here that I want to try this with and see how it works out. So it's kind of an experiment for me as well. I've done it with chukars, I've done it with pheasants, and a few other types of game birds, including woodcock. So I'm going to give grouse a shot and see how it goes. So there's a little quick technique, and a lot of it sometimes I just go through the bird and just try to get some of the loose feathers. And this one doesn't seem to be popping loose too easy. So, but making sure that the skin is tight when you pluck them, and don't go too fast, too quick. Just take a couple feathers at a time. Make sure you don't rip the skin. And I like to start, and like that, I just kind of pluck the skin, and I'm just trying to pluck away from the grain. So I'm just taking a couple feathers out at a time and see how that goes. Okay. And the feathers that are these longer, big feathers oftentimes are really hard to get. But trying to be as tight to the skin as possible helps a lot. And right here are always the toughest ones, because they have such a big root to the feather, and they oftentimes are the most problematic when plucking birds. But if you get your finger right down on the base of that feather where you're plucking out, a lot of times you can mitigate the amount of skin you pull. So I've got the second one just about done being plucked, and I want to cover something real quick. Everybody should probably do this when they harvest the bird, especially if you're just trying to put a game plan together. So inside the crop is a bunch of contents of what this bird was eating. I can already tell just by pressing the skin against the items that we probably have a bunch of thorn apple and crab apple and some other odds and ends. But I'm just going to open this up real quick, and these are like little crab apples and pin cherries, and it's just a whole bunch of different fruit sources that this bird has been eating on. And getting an idea of where you can find this stuff and focusing your hunting efforts on that area will oftentimes yield you a few more extra birds. Hope that tip helps you out. So I've got, I don't know if you can see this, but I've got this big box of feathers and a small box of birds. So we're gonna go in, get these things cleaned up, and then I'll start the process of boning them out. So one thing we want to start by is there's a breastbone in here. That's that wishbone. And so we want to cut along each side of that breastbone, that wishbone. We want to basically just tear it right out on both sides. Oops, try not to throw the knife away. But once we get that bone out, now that makes it easier, I'll have to get that off, to actually fillet out. So we got some feathers here yet. We'll clean this up a little bit more, but in the meantime, all I'm doing is I'm going to basically fillet the carcass right out of the body of this bird. So I'm going to start by just following along the backbone, right down along the rib cage. Here we go. Get down to the hip joint and pop that. Cut right through that hip joint. And then, since we've got that side already done, now we'll start on this side. Just follow the rib cage. Find that hip joint. Oops. Ideally, we try to get as much of that skin as we can. Okay. Oops. Okay, there's the carcass, there's part of it. Now, we basically just take out the bones, so we get into the wing, and all we're doing is we're just scraping down all the bones, and just pressing it off the bone itself, just scraping it off. See how it just kind of goes with? And then once I'm actually to that joint, I'm not going to keep that, so I'll cut that off. But there, got one wing done. Do the other side. Basically push the meat from the wing out, cut around the knob, and then all the tendons come out with that wing. So we have basically a filleted out, boned out breast. Now we go to the leg, which isn't so bad either. We just basically cut all the tissue around the femur. We just scrape the meat, which thereby pulls all the tendons, for the most part, out. And just scraping it off the drumstick. And you see all those tendons in there? They're getting pulled right out. And then when we're ready, just pop that out. There, we got the leg. And do the same thing on this side. Cut around the femur, release some of that meat. Now I just push that down with my fingers. And basically just scraping the meat down off that bone. You can see all those tendons stay right with the leg. I'm actually gonna cut that off right there. There we go. See all the tendons? They're still in the leg. So we don't have all those bones in there. Now what we have, what looks like a gooey mess, but is actually coated in skin. So we can make like a little cushion. You just tuck all that up in there. Whoops, I got a little, trying to wrap up that wing bone. Now I have just this little, I have leg meat, I have wing meat, I have breast meat, I have it all ready to go right there. We'll do the next one. We go. I know it looks like a mess, but we'll just pull the parts back into place. The legs, there's our wings. I just put them back inside, bring them back outside like that. Bring the skin around here, like so. And now we have like a little cushion. Put it back together.